In his last presidential campaign, Donald Trump promised to make the files on the Jeffrey Epstein case public. After the election, however, Epstein had run a child sex trafficking ring, and there are indications that numerous prominent people were involved. Trump refused to release the Epstein files, which led to much criticism and resistance within his own party and his base, the movement Make America Great Again. After the pressure regarding his own connections to Jeffrey Epstein became too great, he changed his mind at the last minute and agreed to the release of further files after all. In addition, shortly before the law to release the files in the Epstein case was passed, he announced that his Attorney General, Pam Bondi, would now launch investigations into former President Bill Clinton, Treasury Secretary Larry Summers, J.P. Morgan Bank, and the LinkedIn co-founder Reid Hoffman in connection with the Epstein case. Bondi has now appointed Jay Clayton to lead this investigation. Clayton previously served on the board of Apollo Global, a company owned by billionaire Leon Black. Leon Black, in turn, was a close business associate of Jeffrey Epstein, who paid $158 million for Epstein's services. It is highly questionable whether anyone from this circle will conduct the investigation with the necessary impartiality.
However, it is fundamentally correct that Bill Clinton is under investigation. Allegations of sexual abuse were already made against him in the 1990s. At that time, both Bryce Taylor and Kathy O'Brien described in detail in their books how they were tortured and ritually abused under the auspices of the Secret Services as part of the MKUltra programs for their conditioning. They described how they were then used by the Secret Services to deliver messages or elicit information from Bill Clinton, amongst others, and were also sexually abused by him in this context. Maria Farmer also incriminates Clinton. Farmer and her sister had already fallen victim to Epstein's sex trafficking ring in 1996. Maria was also forced to work at the reception desk of one of Epstein's guest houses and therefore had explicit insight into who was coming and going at Epstein's. She often saw Bill and Hillary Clinton there. She even described the Clintons, as well as US President Trump, as Epstein's co-conspirators.
I named everybody. I named Donald Trump. I named everyone who I thought was a co-conspirator at the time. Donald Trump, absolutely the Clintons. These were people that I saw coming and going, that I knew were part of it.
As recently as June 2025, the Trump administration had stated that there was no evidence to justify an investigation into individuals who had not yet been charged. So where did this sudden change of heart come from with the indictment of Clinton and the others? Well, the game, Trump versus Clinton, has been played many times before. As we showed in our broadcast, the Trump file, savior or part of the deep state? Trump and Hillary Clinton, as presidential candidates running for office, attacked each other fiercely during the 2016 presidential election campaign. Here, too, Trump promised to launch investigations against Clinton if he was elected. But that never happened. All investigations against Hillary Clinton were dropped under Trump. This is not surprising, as the two families have a long-standing friendship. Hillary Clinton sat in the front row at Donald and Melania Trump's wedding ceremony in 2005. Trump donated to the Clinton Foundation and Hillary Clinton's Senate campaign. So why this sudden surprise attack on an old friend without any pressure to act? It is important to know that even after this legislative decision to release the Epstein files, they will not simply be made available to the public in their entirety. There will still be redactions, for which Attorney General Pam Bondi and her team have 30 days. And these redactions are intended to protect victims and informants. In addition, material that would jeopardize an active federal investigation or ongoing prosecution may now also be withheld or redacted. This would then also affect Bill Clinton. Since investigations are now underway against him, all material concerning him would have to be withheld from the public. The much-heralded investigation into Clinton, therefore, has a threefold advantage for Trump.
First, it allows him to divert attention from his own role in connection with Epstein. Second, in the show fight between left and right, he can play the hero for his supporters, who is finally initiating the long-demanded investigations against Clinton. Third, at the same time, this gives him the opportunity to take his old friend Clinton out of the firing line when the Epstein files are released, since nothing about him can be published due to the ongoing proceedings.
In conclusion, the well-known British investigative educator and author David Icke, who has regularly hit the mark with his analyses and predictions, repeatedly emphasized that the political show fight between left and right, or between Democrats and Republicans, is a great sham.
You have in politics, you have left v right, and then in the background, they're all mates. I mean, some of them might disagree with each other genuinely, but a lot of them, the key people, they're all mates, really. You notice when Donald Trump won the 2016 election, what we're looking at in terms of politics, left and right, it's theater, it's vaudeville, right? And that's to keep us believing in the political system and the fact that because we have a vote every 4 or 5 years, somehow we're in control of who runs the government. But the thing is that you have the left and the right and in this puppet show, and then you go one step back in the shadows and the same hands are controlling both, which is why no matter who's in power, the same, left or right, the same agenda unfolds for humanity.
With this background knowledge, the Trump-Clinton charade presented here becomes clear. None of the showmen appearing here have any interest in publicly revealing important names in the Epstein files. And so the public will continue to be dazzled by such distracting spectacles. The show must go on until the nation see through this left versus right theater and are no longer fooled.